Dr. Fauci, give us vaccines.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
I gotta look into this.
Yeah, it's good.
Ready?
Ready. That was a little off, but anyway, welcome to episode 19 of the Don's Early Podcast.
One away from Trump.
Don's Early Light Podcast. Whoops.
Wow, we're both slurring over our words today.
Jeez.
Too much alcohol.
Too much meth.
And meth. Devil's lettuce. But yeah, episode 19. We're outside today, outside of Cooper's work.
Yep, it's a beautiful day.
Place of employment. It's been super nice the last 2 days. Yesterday I was outside at work for the first like 6-ish hours, and it was beautiful. Spent some time doing some training out on the lake, so
nice.
It was very nice. A nice change up from the 100-degree days that we've been
it's like 75 degrees, really no breeze at all. The sun's not out because it's super cloudy, so it's really just a beautiful day. But we've got some topics of discussion for today.
We've got them lined up, and so we're going to start with Dr. Fauci, because that's a hot topic right now.
Tony.
I can't believe. So from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cooper, because I haven't done an insane amount of research into it. It hasn't been the most interesting thing in my opinion, because it's just court stuff.
Yep.
But it's kind of what we all knew from the get-go after COVID was this is all kind of a scandal. I think Dr. Fauci was one of the masterminds behind it. I think he's, in a way, maybe a little bit of a cover, like, this guy did it, everybody point, and then, get him in the hot seat and everybody looks in his direction. But he was held in contempt of court, which means that his Fifth Amendment right is no longer valid, which means he can't plead the Fifth. However, he managed to plead the Fifth, I believe it was 111 times.
I think that's right, yes.
And during that time, it was really funny. I can't remember his name, but the guy who was questioning him, do you remember his name? I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Brandon Gill?
I think I really like him. He's really cool.
Everybody questioned him, but I think that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, but he was the one who was going like, what's the color of your tie? What's the day of the week? And he's like, fifth. And so just a weird situation. It feels, in my opinion, we'll get into my opinion here a little theatrical. Like we're kind of just, jumping through hoops, and we're going to play this game, and everybody's going to look and be like, wow, this is really interesting for a little bit, and they get bored of it, and it might just fizzle out. Almost like the Epstein stuff in a way, where it comes up in an argument, but it's not really talked about anymore. And so I'm curious to hear kind of what you think about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, go back to 2020, COVID is, becoming big. And anybody with a free-thinking mind and some level of education on viruses knew that, it is a dangerous virus to specific people, but it is no more dangerous than, say, influenza or the flu or these things. And the fact that it was so blown out of proportion, and obviously it was the correct move to try and make a vaccine for it, but they pumped it out so quickly, and Fauci obviously was kind of the front man of this. He was, what was his title? It was like, he was like the medical guy for
medical liaison
Trump
or something.
Whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember the term.
And with the disaster that was the vaccine rollout and all of the side effects that you've seen with the vaccine, obviously he's now on trial for the whole development of this vaccine and the consequences that have, happened to people.
And just the absolute government scandal that COVID was. I mean, we were told, 6 feet, mask mandates.
Completely disrupted society for
kids weren't in school, which we'll get there. It was incredible to see, the political divide. That really, segregated people. Yeah. That was a huge start of political division was COVID, because everybody was, how dare you murder people, and other people were like, this is just a hoax. And
I remember that one of my mom's friends, the topic of the vaccine, this is all in the middle of COVID, and the topic of the vaccine got brought up, and I had mentioned that I'm not vaccinated, and she was like, well, you're putting people at risk. And I was like, I'm really not. And, but it just goes to show how how propagandized people were about about COVID and how dangerous it was. Yes, people with immune
like immunity disorders.
Yeah, immunity disorders. Yes, but that goes for any amount of sickness, not just COVID. The elderly obviously were affected, but if a 90-year-old gets the flu, like that's also really bad. So,
and that's a talking point, because when they were calculating COVID deaths, there were cases that were brought up, and it was like this guy was in a fatal car crash, but he had COVID death, and it was just like weird how we're like skewing these numbers.
That was in Colorado, right? I think.
Yes, yeah, because they had a couple cases there, and then that kind of brought the whole issue with like they started silencing doctors, and people are losing their medical certifications over trying to disagree, you know, in the end. And
Aaron Rodgers, for any sports listeners there, he was just on the Pat McAfee show, and if you know about Aaron Rodgers, there was this whole thing with him choosing not to be vaccinated, and it was this whole big public sort of scandal in the NFL, and people were calling him a murderer. Which is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
If you genuinely thought people were murderers because they chose not to be vaccinated, one, you have absolutely no idea how vaccines work, and two, you have you at least had lost grip on the reality of the situation.
You're losing the plot.
Yeah,
and that kind of reminds me, I can't remember the term for like the form of argumentation that I think of, like the Jubilee people, where it's like if this then that, where it's like, oh, if you don't take the COVID vaccine, you hate old people and you're murdering them. And it's like, whoa, like how are we getting to this?
That's a leap in logic.
Yeah, like how are we getting to this just insane jump? And I remember I almost wasn't able to get my EMT license because of that. Yeah, they were kind of cracking down on that, and I had to get a religious exemption. I'm pretty sure I had to apply for it like 3 times before they were like, fine.
Wow.
Like it's just absurd. So
that's ridiculous. Yeah, it was obviously a complete sham, and Fauci now is in court testifying over this, testifying over the vaccine, testifying over how the government handled COVID, which was a disaster, completely disrupted economics, culture, society, learning, which we're going to get into a bit later. And, for some people, obviously COVID was great, introverts and people who would rather just spend their time alone. But for the rest of the world, for the rest of humanity, it was a disaster. And he's on trial for that now, pleading the fifth. A complete kind of coward's way out of having to answer for the decisions that you made.
Yeah, and so as far as the podcast goes, this feels like almost like an Iran situation where it's like hurry up and wait. I don't think really anything incredibly interesting is going to come from it. I mean, there's 2 avenues. Either he just keeps pleading the fifth and he goes to jail or whatever they decide to do with him, or he says, yeah, it was a sham, and it's like, yeah, we know. So it's like there doesn't seem to be a lot of pertinent information that could really come from it unless he just starts opening up and is like, oh yeah, this is all the stuff that we did and whatnot. So
yeah, and that would be fantastic.
It would, but I don't foresee that happening.
Either.
Especially, I mean, he's already held in contempt. He doesn't have the right to plead the fifth anymore, and he keeps doing it. So I don't really understand. I mean, what are they going to do? It's not like they can start waterboarding him. Like, oh, you better tell us what you were doing. So I'll keep a loose eye on it. Just kind of see what's going on over there, and if something cool happens, we'll probably talk about it. Otherwise.
Fauci in Guantanamo Bay sounds like a musical or something. I definitely go see that. But
Fauci in the Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. I guess last thing on it is a silver lining that can come from this, though, is that I think it can start to wake people up to the reality that the government doesn't tell the truth very often.
Yep.
And when it does, there's usually... it's only like a corner of the truth and not the whole picture of the truth.
And this is really bred in me personally, like just skepticism for everything. As you know, there's skepticism everywhere. And it's not that I'm going to sit here and just deny, like the earth is flat and the moon doesn't exist, like all these things. But it's like, I just have to like take a step back and be like, okay, why? Like why are they doing this? Are there repercussions, or are they trying to this, that, and the other? So and then Hennavirus or whatever that was.
Yeah, hantavirus.
When they were really trying to like push that, and everybody was like, no, we're gonna quarantine. No, like we're not gonna do it.
It reminds me of the coup that happened in South Korea. Coup, I think it was South Korea, or some Southeast Asian country. I can't remember. But basically, the citizens were just like, no.
We're not gonna.
Yeah, we're just not gonna obey, and then they didn't. And then, yeah, it was super weird. What a really weird little point in history, by the way. If you're like, look into that if you want to go down a weird history bit.
But I do think it was hilarious because even on social media, even like diehard liberals were like, we don't care. Like, this is dumb. So I think people are just kind of fed up with like the whole, we need to stay at home. Yeah, everybody's just, even the introverts are like, oh, I still enjoy,
I really don't think Biden would have gotten elected, one, if they hadn't dumped ballots in swing states, or two, if COVID never blew up the way it did. Yeah, so it's a little anecdote there, but
yeah, but I think that'll segue us, not even really segue, but the second thing we wanted to talk about before we get into our main topic is three halves, the name of the demon goat robot that I guess is going to be helping with wildland fires. Our friend Josh pointed that out to me, and then I started seeing it on my social media, and I was like, this can't be real.
As a fireman, that probably hits close.
Yeah, it is real, and so
it's what?
It is real. I love that bit, but I don't really know how to feel about it. It just feels like I don't even know, like a laugh in Christians' faces. It's like, why are we even doing this?
Yeah.
Why are we making a demon robot that's going to help in like medical aid and stuff? And then why does it have to look like that? Like, what was the point of the centaur horns? And this is like a real, like, this is what they want to make.
Centaurs don't have horns.
No,
anyway.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. Anyway, minotaurs have horns.
But minotaurs don't have four legs, right?
Right. Centaurs have the human top half
and the horse
ass.
So it's a centaur with horns. Because it's not a minotaur either, because it has a horse
It's just
body.
like a goat.
Yeah.
It's like a centaur, but instead of a human, it's got a goat
body.
Half.
And it's like 6'7", which is a weird, yeah. So, and then we were talking earlier, and I looked up the name of it, Three Halves, which we're thinking is almost a play on the Trinity.
Yeah.
The idea of like incomplete.
Yeah, so obviously the Trinity is three holes into one. The three halves is kind of a play on 666, which is three incomplete numbers, and the holy number 777 being in Hebrew numerology, 7 stands for completeness, 6 stands for incompleteness, like 3 stands for holiness.
Like you think of creation, 7 days,
right,
completeness.
Exactly. And so three halves is sort of three sixes. If 6 stands for incompleteness, and this is definitely a little conspiracy.
And this is like but it's also like demon robot.
But yeah,
you know what I mean?
if you look it up, it's like, oh, that's just blatantly like
it's just a
evocative of a demon.
Yeah,
you know,
we couldn't have made that look like Baymax or something.
Yeah, you couldn't have like at least like paint it, you know, with rainbows or something.
Yeah, like
it seemed kind of friendly, but it's literally pure black. It has like these glowing white eyes. It literally looks like the Babadook or something.
Yeah, like why? It just goes back to the whole why question. It's like, what's tactical about the horns? You know, did it need the horns? Like it could have just been a centaur. It didn't need to have demon horns. So it's very odd. And so I'm just gonna kind of, again, keep a lazy eye on it. Just like, oh, if something cool happens, look into it. It's just weird.
Yeah,
it's just
very
weird.
strange. Just a very strange choice, probably with intention. But I guess.
Yeah, so very rarely do things like that have no meaning. You know,
yeah.
the demon robot with 3 halves. So we'll see what comes of that. But that'll move us into our main topic of the day, which is education. I feel like in like half of the podcast episodes we filmed, I'm like, that's education, which I will bring up in some future episodes. We're talking about education.
The moment you've all been waiting for.
It's a passion project. We debated somebody last year, and I remember they were like, if there was something you could change about America, what would it be? I was like, education, because I think it's like a really it's at the crux of like our future, what we're bringing up. We've talked about it a little bit, the idea that nations start to dwindle away at around like 250 years of being a nation, which I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but I think that really starts with an uneducated youth and a youth that doesn't really understand how to do things. And what I mean by that is like have a debate, like a conversation with somebody that you disagree with, which is
learning how to learn, which is what we
yes, learning how to
AI
learn.
Episode 16.
Yeah, I mean, AI is going to be huge with the ability to just not do anything, and I see that as a genuine concern. And we talked to a couple people, and I appreciate the conversations in our YouTube comments always.
Yes, thank you for speaking your mind and opening dialogue with us. We really do appreciate it.
We do, and I think that a point that a lot of people miss on AI is I think it's going to be a great tool, just like a cell phone. But if we're going to compare it to a cell phone's an incredible tool. I use it for work, for mapping out where we're going on calls, or being able to call anybody around the world. Like, incredible tool. Mm-hmm. But then we have our youth that spends like 5 to 7 hours a day on their phones, and that is just tragic. And I think over your lifespan, you're going to lose like 10 years of your life to your phone. That is hard to wrap your mind around. And I was telling Cooper earlier, like, I struggle with that now.
Well, yeah, to have the world's largest database of information at your fingertips. Mm-hmm. Like, all you need to do is have an internet connection and press a button on your phone, and you can watch like a 3-hour video on the most niche subject, or you could doom scroll and just see all the recipes that this person is making, mm-hmm. or see the crackhead in the apartment, jumping out the window or whatever, just some crazy crap. And the amount of time that can just draw you into is immense. Well,
it's a drug, it's a dopamine hit you're getting, and the just insane amount of manipulation that these platforms use, that they try to bend the algorithm to keep you sucked into it. Like, it's dangerous. And so when we get to AI and we think about AI, it's more dangerous. There's more potential for it to be an issue. And I'm always under the impression that the government has far more advanced technology than we do. I think that's just what goes without saying. So I do believe that they've had AI longer than we have. I think that's a safe assumption. And so there's going to be ways of making people say things that they didn't say, do things that they didn't do. We've already seen like civilians being able to create AI videos of people that look incredibly realistic. And so it's not far-fetched to assume that the government has a greater capacity for that. And so with that being said,
or foreign governments
being, China is definitely a big one, and I had that conversation with somebody in our comments where they're like, China's not going to stop developing AI, and I agree. We need to also develop our AI because we want to be at par or above par of what China has.
It's an arms race, basically.
Yes, it is, and it's one that I think we're not taking seriously, in a sense that, like, this is also a weapon. This is a threat. You can use AI to get into databases. There's just so many complications with AI. So not to dwell too much on AI, but AI is an issue. And then we get into education. That's kind of where I want to start, at least, is
let's do it.
The AI implications, because that's new technology coming into our schools that are really made for not what we're dealing with currently in society. People aren't working in factories anymore. They don't need to be regulated to just sitting down in one spot for 10 hours a day. Like, it just doesn't need to be like that. And so AI is going to open up this door for students to be able to get on their phones or take their homework home and just have it done in 10 minutes when maybe it was going to take an hour or two. Yeah. And so I think that's my first issue with school that I noticed when I was really young, like sophomore year, that really frustrated me, is we're here for 8 hours and then you expect us to go home and do additional work. And I think that was hard for me to wrap my mind around, because I feel like a lot of time at school is wasted, whether that's learning the same thing over and over just in a different manner, or learning things that maybe aren't as important. And so did you go to public school?
Yeah. Yep.
So Cooper went to public school, I went to private school. well, I kind of got all three. So I went to public school up until 3rd grade. And then from 3rd grade to 4th grade, I went to a private school. 5th grade, I was homeschooled for a year. And then 7th on, private school. I've been to 2 different private schools, so I've kind of got the whole experience. So because my higher education was in private school, from that experience, I feel like we learned, or we were taught, good things for the most part. I feel like we went over things that were important, like the history pretty objectively. We didn't go too much into what I would call like subjective history points or anything like that. And we learned the Bible, which I think is obviously great. But it got to a point where from like middle school to high school, I kind of noticed that we were just learning the same thing over and over again, just maybe got a little more complicated. Like, oh, in history class, we're gonna go over the Civil War, World War I and World War II. And then we just kept doing that over and over, but maybe we would talk about some more niche people, or we'd get into some more niche categories. And so that was one issue that kind of stood out to me, is I feel like we're just repeating, like repetition, and I didn't enjoy that. And so I guess, how was your public school experience?
Yeah, I mean, public school was, I enjoyed my time at school, but I also didn't really care that much. And I was naturally smart enough to just kind of skate by and use my kind of, common sense on tests and things like that. And I had good short-term memory. And I definitely just skated through high school, not really invested into the things I was learning. But I think my school did a fine job at, presenting me with opportunities to learn and giving me resources in order to do that effectively. I never really struggled with homework. I could always get we had this shout out Fremont Tigers, go Tigers. But we had a block, so we had block scheduling, which is different from a lot of different public schools.
I do think block scheduling is really good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So you're in a class for an hour and a half instead of like 30 minutes at 8 classes for 30 minutes. It's 4 classes for an hour and a half. And there was a break in there called Tiger Success Time, and it's basically a homeroom. And I would be able to get all my homework done in that 30-minute window and not really have to worry about,
That's nice.
taking things home. Obviously there were times where I had to do that, but I really don't think I had a terrible experience. I think Fremont did it pretty well. Now Fremont's heavily leading into trades, and they've got this whole new mechanic garage and things like I think Fremont's doing very well, and I think my experience there was great. However, I could only imagine if somebody like me who didn't care very much had access to AI during high school. I would be a troglodyte, dude. I would not
zero knowledge of anything.
I would not know how to learn. And thankfully I was blessed to be just sort of naturally good enough at school to be able to skate by and still end up with like a 3.7 GPA. But I did not have the drive to care. And if I had AI at my disposal, I would be a troglodyte, dude.
Yeah,
I would not be as intelligent as I am now.
See, and so my school experience was a little bit different than Cooper's. As far as like classes go, our private school that I went to, they had a much more rigorous grading scale. So 70% was failing, so 70 and up. So they didn't do like the 10-point, or I think it's like 60s and F. And the curriculums were much more advanced, and so I had a lot harder of a time with school, and I just didn't have a great like short-term memory. Like if I commit myself to studying something, I can remember it incredibly well, but if I don't care about it, it is in one ear, out the other. Like you could tell me a fact, and if I don't care about it, I already forgot. Like it's gone. And so school was definitely an issue for me, and it was around sophomore year where I was like, actually my parents, my mom for one, she was like, your grades are bad, and I don't really think it's your fault, I just think you're not a school person. And so we looked into community college, the trades, and that's where I found my love for firefighting, and it was all hands-on. No book work, no classroom work, all hands-on. I got my associate's degree before I got out of high school. I graduated a semester early, so I went from like nothing to everything in 2 years. And that really made me care about school more, because I was like, this was a great option. Not everybody knows this option exists. I didn't pay for college, it was all free. I made money going. It was incredible. And so the difference between sophomore year, me struggling to get like classwork done, like I just hated it, to junior, senior, and I had my associates in something that I loved, and I got a job at 19, night and day. And so I feel like making those opportunities more accessible is a good start. But I also think middle school is a good time to teach the basics. Like I would call maybe up to algebra 1 or 2, and like history, world history, that's very important, and US history. But then once we get to high school, now we're looking at, you can drive, you're getting a job, like you're starting to integrate into society more. Let's figure out what you're good at, what you enjoy doing. You don't need to be doing calculus if you don't enjoy calculus, in my opinion. But if you enjoy welding, we could do a welding class, like people are saying with trades. And so I think that's a really good starting point of contention with me, is that we need to start worrying more about the students than like, we're just gonna try and get you through this and kick you out. Because I've seen that with other public schools, like some that are more local to me, is it's kind of just trying to churn you out. Like, we don't care if you're failing, we're just trying to get you out of here and get you into the real world. And you get into the real world and you're like, I have no skills. I don't know how to do taxes. I don't know how to budget. Like I was talking to my dad about that earlier, and he was telling me some statistics, and I don't 100% remember them, but just about how young people have no idea how to budget money. Everybody complains, and I do think obviously we have inflation and it's very difficult to buy a house right now, and like there are genuine concerns, but there also are people that just do not know how to use their money.
I was on a channel called Counterpoint, and we did a video on Gen Z versus boomers, and that was one of the topics of discussion, was that owning a house by 30, like, is that a feasible thing for Gen Z? And I was the only one who said yes. And obviously, I don't know if you know this, but I do own a home. I'm 24. I got it when I was 22. And I'm very blessed to have come from a family that is decently well off, and that obviously elevated me into a position where I did not have to worry about paying for bills while I was in high school, and so I could save that money to put a down payment on a house. Same thing through college. I worked through college as well, so saving that money. And I think it's but I'm definitely not like rich, I'm definitely middle class, and the majority of American Gen Z is middle class. So when you have the opportunity to save money, like most of the middle class can do, it is on the person. It's what do you value? Do you value, going out and buying the $60 video game, buying vapes, buying alcohol, going to the bar, what have you, spending your money on these things? Or do you value taking that money, putting it in your savings account or putting it in an investment account, and not spending it until you rack up enough money over the course of what took me about 8 years of saving to then put an $8,000 down payment on my house? So it is an achievable dream. I think Caleb's right, is that kids are not taught the importance of budgeting, saving, and from my experience, my high school never touched on that. I mean, we had a financial course, but that was really just over the idea of what money can do, like what purchasing power is, what supply and demand is, not necessarily what money can do for you, but what money does in general. And I think that's where a lot of the youth becomes ignorant, is on how do I best use my money for the things that I want in a grander sense.
And I agree. And I'm also planning on buying a house at 22. So next year, I'm 21. So I'd love to buy a house next year, with potential wife in the future. And I think that's a very feasible goal for us. And I don't have the highest paying job out there. Like, I'm not making millions fighting fires. But I make enough that if I set aside a certain amount, we're planning on putting down a $40,000 down payment.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can definitely. All right, sorry, our camera overheated again. So.
Yes, but as I was saying, we're gonna put down a pretty good down payment on a house, we would hope. And so I think there's legitimate concern. I do think housing prices are getting out of control. We talked, or you went on that, what was it again, that show?
Oh, Counterpoint.
Counterpoint. And so I do think there's two genuine avenues. The houses are too expensive, but I do think that kids are overspending and are used to maybe more luxurious lives than they're aware of. Because I think if you live middle class and you're complaining about your lifestyle, that you really
mostly on you.
That you also maybe don't have a great grasp on reality.
And you have to put into perspective the house that you're going to get before you're 30 is not going to be a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-story home. It's just, I mean, unless obviously you're well off, but for the average 20 to 30-year-old, the house you're going to get is probably 2-bedroom, 1-bath, hopefully a basement,
and you're gonna make it work.
Yes, but which you should.
But even just picture if you're 20 years old and you have a job, and you were able to set aside $100 a month for 10 years. That is $1,200 a month. So you're $12,000 in 10 years. So when you're 30, you can put down $12,000 in a house. Like, that is just very simple.
The bare minimum of $100 a month.
So if you're getting paid bi-weekly, that's $50 a paycheck.
You can make
that is a Netflix subscription and a HBO subscription.
If you make $20 an hour, you know.
Yes.
So you're making roughly about,
let me do some calculations.
With taxes, you're making about $1,400 bi-weekly, ish. You can almost certainly, if you value saving money, and if your pay rate stays stagnant throughout those entire 10 years, and you saving up, you know, $12,000
in 10 years.
In 10 years, very doable.
Incredibly feasible. And I would take that as a challenge for anybody.
That's a great down payment on a house. Great down payment.
It is. And I worked at Chipotle for around 4 years, and I was making more money at Chipotle than I do now on the fire department. Yeah. And it did not take long at all. And I am confident that if you are a upstanding employee that shows up a couple minutes early and is willing to leave a couple minutes late, you can do that probably just about anywhere. Just about any entry-level job, you can make it pretty high. Because I know for a fact that Chipotle that I worked at is still looking to fill my role, because my roommate works there. So like, they are still, somebody gets in there for a couple months and they leave to a better job. Because if you get to that role, generally you're a pretty hardworking person, and so you're going to be able to find another source of income, unless that's your main goal. Which, I mean, you can make 6 figures out of Chipotle. You can make 6 figures out of Domino's. Like, you can make 6 figures at a lot of places. It may take
you 50 years, but you can get there.
You can get there, or it might take you 4. I mean, I had the opportunity to be a GM, and GMs make incredible money. So a little bit tired of the excuses, in a sense. Like, you know,
yes.
I don't have the money. You have the money. You can make it work. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
It might be a little more challenging. You might not get to buy the Clash Royale Battle Pass every month. You might have to lay down the Fortnite skins for a year. You might have to set aside the boozing for a couple of days, but you can make it work.
Yeah, and to tie this back into education, I think it should be a school's job to teach that, but also it starts at the home. And I'm blessed enough that my mother is a financial manager, so she's obviously very well versed with finances and what you can make your money do for you. So she instilled in me the importance of saving. I never had a problem with that, and obviously I'm in the situation I am now because I had that savings mindset. Now, I know that's not the same for a lot of people. Some people's parents are not fiscally literate, and they can pick up bad habits like credit card debt, all of, spending your money on the weekends, going out to the bars and things like this, spending your money on memorabilia or fast food all the time.
A really nice car, and then you're in car debt.
Right.
There's real things like that, and so.
Yeah, but it does start at the home, and I think parents are ultimately responsible for the education of their child, but schools do need to
could
play
absolutely be the second line of defense to ensure that every child, teen, whatever, has the best opportunity to flourish. And that kind of brings me to my first real education point, and that's parental choice. I think we preach capitalism, we preach it on PAC, we preach it. The Republicans like to preach capitalism, especially now, when people are starting to lean towards socialism. But I believe capitalism works incredibly well, and we instill that everywhere except the education system. And I think that's one of the places that we see the breaking point of why capitalism needs to be implemented there. And if you don't know, I forget the exact term, I think it's districting. Basically, the idea is if there's, we'll take Bellevue, for example, because I can remember that. So you have Bellevue East and Bellevue West. If you live in this certain district of Bellevue, you have to go to East. If you live in this one, you have to go to West, unless you have some conflicting issue, but that's a standalone point.
Yep.
And that goes for Omaha schools, everywhere, Iowa schools, whatever. And so the idea is we take the capitalism out of it. There's no competition. And so what schools can do is they can say, we're going to pump all our money into sports. We're not going to pay our teachers very well. We're going to pay our higher echelon of people, like our superintendent,
the admin.
They're going to make $300,000 a year, and the teachers are going to make $20K a year.
Ridiculous.
Which is incredibly stupid. And then also, if you don't know,
administration makes way too much.
Yes, and so my mother's a teacher, and so I know a lot about the teacher's income and that kind of thing. Another thing that goes into it is teachers don't get paid during the summer, so they have the option to either take all their money during not summer, so the 9 months that the schools are in session, or they can spread it out over the summer. But that's also another consideration, is that they're not getting paid 3 months out of the year.
Yeah.
So teachers really get the bad end of the stick when they have such an important job. And then you start getting bad teachers because nobody wants to do that job, because it's a lot of school. My mom has 2 master's degrees, or 2 bachelor's, I apologize. Just 2 bachelor's degrees, and which is 8 years of school.
Yeah.
And that accounts for not a lot. And so school choice would help bring that competition aspect of capitalism into schools, where if you take that same example of Bellevue East and Bellevue West, Bellevue East has incredible teachers, and they have really been putting their budget into a good teacher base. And Bellevue West is no, we're going to spend $1 million on sports, and then our superintendent's going to make $500,000 a year. So parents would have the ability to go, that school has better teachers, I want to send my kid there. That school would flourish, the other one wouldn't, and then they would have to either reevaluate what they're doing, or they'd close because they don't have any kids going. And so that is a big aspect, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, school choice, I think, is really important. And this whole districting thing, it de-incentivizes schools to want to be better so that people send their kids there. It's the class, I mean, you can apply this to economics, you can apply this to whatever. It's that competition drives innovation, and it just makes everything better. And so if you have school A and school B, and all the kids on the A side of town have to go to school A, and all the kids on the B side of town have to go to school B, like you had mentioned, it completely de-incentivizes schools to want to attract kids to their school. And the way that schools do this is by having good teachers, having a good sports program, having a good arts program, having a good tech program, having a good whatever, right? These schools are de-incentivized to improve. And so when you stagnate, you decline. And so when you look at the amount of schooling, or the amount of, or I guess the lack thereof of competition, it's plain to see how schools are getting complacent, because all the kids are just getting funneled in anyway. And so when these schools are complacent, they do not innovate. And with that comes more uneducated children that then turn into adults who are uneducated and don't know how to learn. And then you throw AI into the mix. You throw all of these worries that we have with the younger generation not being able to know how to learn. It creates a very, very scary monster.
And it's just the youth is kind of, I say the youth, I'm 21, but it is like the youth is the
You're an adult now.
I am, true. But the youth is like the vacuum of all the new stuff. Like they are coming up in a world, like YouTube came out in 2005, I was born in 2005. I was raised in the world of YouTube. I know, back in the day. But so I was raised with YouTube. You take like my parents, they didn't even know they didn't have smartphones, computers. So the youth, they come up with the new stuff. They're the ones that are being raised in an environment of this is all like quote unquote normal. Like it's normal for people to have a phone. And 40 years ago, if your kid didn't have a phone, or like your kid didn't have a phone, they just went to school, came back, never heard from them. Now it's like parents are worried about their kids all the time, so they need to have a phone. And that's where we see the screen time of children being at this like almost 7-hour mark, which is absurd. Just a crazy number that like almost
7 hours, yeah.
Like almost a third of your day is on your phone. And you might think that's
half of your waking day.
Yeah, and you might think that's impossible, but then you look at your screen time and you're like, yeah, I checked a text and I scrolled through Reels for 15 minutes and then this and this, and then it gets away from you. And so they're coming up with parents who believe that they need to have a cell phone, which I'm very under the impression that
at least not a smartphone.
Yeah, children should not have a
flip phone or something. Sure, a BlackBerry.
What my parents did is a watch, like just a watch that they can see where my sister is and has like very basic communication aspects between them. I think anything with data too. So like my sister also has an iPad. I think that's fine, but when you get to like data where they can use that device anywhere, that changes things up too. Like when I was coming up, I had a Kindle that didn't have data, so like if we went out to like eat, I'm not gonna bring my Kindle. But now if you go out to eat and you have a 12-year-old that has a phone that has data, like it doesn't matter, they can be on that phone all the time. And so to kind of rein it into where this applies into education, you have kids that are being raised with smartphones. A lot of them have data because the parents want to know where their kid is or what's going on, that will have access to AI. And you'll have these kids that don't want to do school because I wouldn't have wanted to do school either. I agree. So they're going to take the water aspect of just trying to find the easiest route to go, and they're going to go to AI and get their homework done easily. And as AI advances, it's going to be harder for teachers to pick up on if students are using it. And I think the only measurable way to find out if they're using AI is to either do everything in class or on tests. They're gonna be like, wow, you hundreds on all your homework assignments, but you take a test and you got a 40. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So there's so many aspects to education. I could talk about it for 100 years, but that is really the standout to me, is new technology is gonna really affect these kids. And then you tie that in with, you have teachers who, it's not even that they don't really care, but it's maybe that's not their passion, or maybe they don't feel as driven to do teacher things because they're not making a ton of money. Like my mom was in a very fortunate situation where she was married to my dad, so that wasn't their only form of income. But like imagine just a single woman or a single man who's teaching, like that's not really an income you can buy a nice house with, tie that all together. So there needs to be reform. And I think it needs to be talked about more. There's just so many areas that we could start, but I think it really starts with, let's put some competition in the schools. Let's use capitalism to its fullest. I mean, we live in America, let's do it. And let's allow parent choice. If they want to send their child to a school that's doing a lot better, send their child there. Yeah.
And it's a good thing that these schools that are less desirable, they go away. That's a good thing. I think that, the idea that we need to protect these schools is, it's asinine, honestly. It's really not something that should be considered seriously, because...
I'm sorry, but the argument that it's...
All right, it overheated again, so we're gonna wrap this one up, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like 75 and cloudy, and it's overheating, so we'll have
to figure that out.
Work that out. But as I was saying, it is an opinion of some people that teachers are losing their jobs if we close down schools. But would you rather that little hiccup, or they keep making like 20K a year? You know what I mean? So it just feels like maybe we just nip this in the bud now, and then teachers are better off.
Yep.
So that was the point I was making.
Yeah. So to say that, these schools dying off is a bad thing, while that could be true for jobs, that does not necessarily mean that it's going to be bad for society. Mm-hmm. It's in fact going to be good for society, because if these, uninnovative schools continue to operate, then they're going to produce people who do not know how to learn, who become adults who don't know how to think. And when you have that, that's when you get socialism and communism elected into this country.
Yeah, it's like the firefighter paradox, where people tend to hate change and they hate the way things are. So it's like there's just, at some point, you're just going to have to take a jump and try to change something. And I think that's a phenomenal place to start, is to introduce parent choice. And it's not going to be abrupt and immediate. If you say, hey, parent choice is going to happen at school A and school B, it's not just like one is going to shut down tomorrow and the other one is just going to start flourishing. It's going to take some time. It might take 10, 20, 30 years to start implementing better teachers, but at some point, parents are going to be like, all right, this school's starting to do a little bit better. Maybe we'll start sending Timmy and Billy here, and then this school's going to start flourishing a bit more, and this one might have to start catching up. And I honestly think they're going to start balancing out.
Yes.
It's not, it might be like a 60-40 or, whatever, but.
Yeah, the vast majority of schools are going to actually they're going to adapt instead of die. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you'll have the ones that do die, but, it's just basic. The way that the world works, either you adapt or you die. Mm-hmm. That's economics, society, wildlife, all of, that's the way that this world operates. And so, Caleb, do you have anything else that you'd like to touch on?
I don't. There's a lot of talking points, and obviously comment down below if you have any disagreements or you want to hear more, because that is a big position of mine, I guess we'll call it. But I'm sure when we table, we'll talk about it a lot more with people. I know there's people that agree, disagree, whatever. So that is my main point of contention, and my main thing that I think if we change that, or if we start implementing that 10, 20, 30 years down the road, especially when technology just keeps advancing, AI keeps advancing, that we'll see major benefits. So with that, we'll wrap up episode 19. Sorry, it was a little bit...
Yeah, a little choppy. Unfortunately, our camera was overheating a bunch, but bear with us. If you'd like to donate so that we can get a better camera, or a fan that we could hook up to cool our camera, please consider donating. If you donate $30 or more, you will get this a stylish black pack hat, or an incredibly stylish tan pack hat that you can do with whatever you please.
Yes. With that, I think episode 19 will be over. I will be going to Florida for a week, so maybe we'll plan like a Zoom podcast episode, or there might just be a little...
We should zoom in from the beach.
Dude, that would be awesome.
That'd be sick.
What up?
You could show us his chiseled body.
Chiseled beach bod.
Anyway, we're gonna go on a date after this anyway. So
we're gonna go on a little date, so it's okay.
Yep.
Socks.
Not on, brother. We both don't have
This
socks.
is an incredible thing. So neither myself nor Cooper, we never wear socks. Like summertime, just...
Are we gay?
Sockless. Might be.
And so, our heroes, Caleb and Cooper, gaily fled away from Nebraska and ended up in gay Mecca, aka San Francisco, where they frolicked and were super gay together for the rest of gay time.
No, but yeah, I guess if that's the end of the video, that's the end of the video. That'd be pretty funny.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, so we'll catch you guys on episode 20. The big 2-0.
Episode 20 coming right up.
Right up, baby.
I wonder what we'll talk about. I don't know.